watching Criticom Link, back here today with a review for Dunkirk, which was directed by Christopher Nolan and was released on July 21st, 2017. This was my second most anticipated movie of this year behind Justice League. So yeah, for the vast amounts of hype I had for this film delivered on it. This is easily the best film I have seen this entire year, and like top 4 films I have seen this decade. I would rank this my third favorite Nolan movie behind The Dark Knight and Inception, and also I haven't seen every Christopher Nolan movie there is. I haven't seen that one film that everyone says is so great called Memento. I have yet to see that. I heard people say that it's awesome, so I'll see that one day. This is a very different kind of unconventional World War II movie. Everyone is going to notice that this film really does not have a lot of dialogue. Nolan has the actors display emotions and display fortitude through facial expressions, something that's very hard to do. The main star of this movie, at least he's credited as the main star in the credits, is Fionn, I don't know if that's how you say his first name correctly, but Fionn Whitehead. He did terrific in this movie. This was his breakout role. But I would say definitely the older actors do talk a lot more than the younger actors. But I don't have an issue with the younger actors not speaking a lot throughout this film, if speaking at all. It doesn't bother me because that makes it more realistic. Because, I mean, it's like if I was on this beach of Dunkirk surrounded by German planes that wanted to bomb me, then it's like, I think I would just be too scared to talk. I mean, it's just like, I would kind of be shell-shocked throughout the whole situation. You have to assume that's what they would be doing if they were in this situation too, because for the older people, they are more experienced in the situation. They're not as scared as seeing all of this bombing and soldiers dying as the younger ones are, because the younger ones, it's like this is the first time they are exposed to this kind of thing. That aspect was one of my favorite parts throughout this whole movie because it just made it that much more realistic. Okay, so let's talk about the filmmaking for this movie. This is some of the best sound design I've ever heard in a film. When planes were descending from the sky and onto the ground, it really felt like there was a plane that was literally gonna come crashing through the building. I mean, I am serious. It made it that much scary. I know that's not a pleasant thought, but I'm just saying, that's how intimidating it was. And look, while I don't have the most experience in sound design, I do make videos, so I do have some experience, and I know that when it comes to sound design and trying to make it seem great and realistic, it's not just simply turning up the volume. I'm talking to you, Michael Bay. It's a wide variety of other aspects of sound, like pitch, that count toward making it seem realistic. And this film was able to master that. I did not have one issue throughout this film's sound design. There's not a single scene where this sound design could have probably been improved or could have been louder or quieter. And there's not a single scene of audio dubbing either, or at least if there was, then I did not notice it. And also the cinematography is arguably maybe the best cinematography that I have seen this year. This movie immerses you in the situation. It makes you feel that you are literally right there watching all of this stuff unfold, and it is just terrific. Another thing that helps the immersion is the musical score. Now, I was a little bit hesitant about the musical score and how it was going to be going this movie because it really didn't sound that good in the trailers. Hans Zimmer did the musical score for this movie, and in the trailers it kind of sounded like he was running out of ideas. The people who made the trailers, I guess for some reason they just picked out the worst tracks of the musical score, because the musical score in this movie is all around top notch. So when it comes to the filmmaking, there's virtually nothing wrong with this movie when it comes to that aspect. This movie is flawless as a film. As for my issues with this movie, I do have 2 issues with it. One of them is a logical error, and one of them is a loose thread that should have been tied up. Without getting into spoilers, there was this one scene at the beginning of the movie where Tom Hardy was, flying diagonally along the beaches of Dunkirk, so, he had to land his plane because, his plane was all out of fuel. But what bothered me in this whole scene was that Tom Hardy flew his plane all the way from the safe zone, from where the men of Dunkirk were boarding the ships. He flew his plane all the way into enemy territory, where it's like, why did you do that? I feel the scene could have been done better, because I think that the soldiers on this beach, I think they would have had the instinct to move out of the way so this plane could land. And another thing, Tom Hardy could have just waited until this row of men would end, and then he could just land his plane soon after this row ends, so that way he's still close to, you know, the men that are cheering him on, and that way he's still relatively close, sort of close, to the ships that, you know, the men are boarding on. And instead flew his plane like miles and miles past all of those men at Dunkirk, past the safe zone, into enemy territory, where he was captured by the enemy. I mean, maybe I missed something during that whole scene. Maybe I missed something, but that was just a logical error. The other issue I have with this movie is a loose thread that could have been tied up at the end of the movie. Without getting into spoilers, Mark Rylance's character, along with his son and another boy named George, rescue one soldier played by Cillian Murphy, who is, you know, shell-shocked from what he's been through and is suffering from PTSD. Well, midway through the movie, he does something terrible. Granted, it was an accident, it wasn't intentional, but it was still something terrible. So what bothered me was that I wanted to know what happened to Cillian Murphy's character after all was said and done. Did he commit suicide over all the guilt he was feeling? If the colonels and generals and higher-ups in the army found out about what he did, which they would have had to find out, was he dishonorably discharged? It just raises a whole bunch of questions that could have been answered. And look, I understand that I don't need to be shown or told everything, and this film does get that message quite well. This film does not tell you everything. This film relies heavily on the show, don't tell technique, something that I appreciated, but this was one thing that I felt could have been elaborated upon more. I wanted to find out what happened to Cillian Murphy's character, and it's like, although I don't need to be told everything, that is one thing I think the film should have told me, because, you know, it felt like a plot hole. It felt like a loose thread that could have been tied up. But other than those two issues, this was my favorite movie of this year so far. I all around love this movie. I don't think this movie is going to be for everyone, because this movie, while it doesn't overload on gore and violence, it definitely does have some violent scenes, some scenes of gore, and some very, very intense as hell scenes, like the dogfights. While it's not perfect, while it's not Nolan's best movie in my opinion, I'm definitely gonna buy the Blu-ray once that does get released, and I'm definitely adding this to my Chris Nolan collection. And Chris Nolan continues to prove that he truly is one of the best filmmakers working in the industry today. So with that being said, I'm going to give Dunkirk an 8.7 out of 10 stars. So what did you think of Dunkirk? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever your thoughts, whatever your opinions, let me know down in the comment section below. I am curious to know. And before I conclude this video, I have 3 shout outs to give today. The first shout out being my younger brother Michael, who started his own channel recently. Now me and Michael, you may remember, we collaborated in the review of Power Rangers. We did that one together. So now he has recently started his own channel called BlueXG&M. He uploads gaming videos and videos pertaining to movies. The other shout out I have to give is a channel called CreedDs with an underscore. He uploads gaming videos, mainly Call of Duty Black Ops 3 as of this recording. And last but not least, the final shout out I have to give, he has commented on almost all of my videos that I have uploaded since we met. And that channel that I'm talking about is Cody Lamoureux. You may also know him as Cinema for Nerds. He reviews movies, he also has short films, and he recently started doing game reviews. So definitely do go check him out. His videos are a ton of fun. So if you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed already, do subscribe, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace!